What up, what up? This is Alert Wolf here. I'm gonna bring you another movie review. This time, it's of Skyfall, the latest in the Bond series. So this is my Skyfall movie review. And, alright, out of all of Daniel Craig's Bond movies, this has to be my favorite out of all of them. And that's saying something, because I'm a big Bond guy, big fan. And I really enjoyed this last one. Am I going the wrong way? There, I'm in the center now. Really enjoyed this last one. And I'll get right into the story and, give you my review. Basically, I don't like to give away too much in these movie reviews, so you won't get all of it from me. But the gist of the plot is, basically, the movie opens up, a lot of action in the beginning. Bond walks in a situation, agents are dead, they have the earpiece in, and M is ordering him to go track down this dude. Meanwhile, one of the agents is still alive, and he could have saved him, had he given him medical attention, but apparently, whatever this guy has, which we find out is a list, is more important. So, Bond and his female backup agent, Eva, are in pursuit, and it's a mad chase through a town, and it's, she's driving, she's crashing into stuff, and Bond's, it ends up turning into a motorcycle chase, and a fight on a train. It was really good. Bond gets wounded in it, and you know what, I will say this, unlike a lot of pictures like this where somebody gets injured and they keep going and it doesn't affect them, I like the fact that it affected him throughout this whole film, this injury. Which is a good thing in my opinion for continuity, and it just makes sense. Bond isn't a superhuman. Basically, there comes a moment in the beginning, and what I'm giving you right now, the spoiler alert here, is only the first 5 minutes of the motion picture right now. So, don't worry, I'm not really giving away much. And then, Bond is trying to get this hard drive, which has a list on it, back from the assailant. They're on a moving train that's going through tunnels. Eva... Is it Eva or Eve? Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Oh, it's Eve, not Eva, excuse me. So Eve has a shot. Well, she doesn't really have the shot. She has a sniper rifle on him. She could shoot, but she says it's not clean. M orders her to take the shot. She takes the shot. It gets, basically it causes Bond to fall off the train, which was on a platform, and he ends up falling like a few hundred feet into a river, and this is how the motion picture opens. Basically, M is called under review because she lost 2 agents that day, seemingly, and she lost, more importantly, the list, which turns out to be the list of all the deep cover NATO operatives throughout the world on the anti-terrorist task force or whatever it is. So it's a big deal. Next we meet Ray Fiennes' character, Moyer. Yeah, I believe that's right. And he's a politician. Basically tells M that she needs to retire. This is a scandal that's not going to go away. It's only going to get worse. And that's what they're going to do to her, But she's going to fight. She's fighting this. Then there's a bombing in her office in the MI6 building. She's not there. Of course, she was on her way out of that meeting. And this was deliberate. They were hacked, and it was deliberately set to explode. And this is a personal attack towards her. Because, it was done from her office computer, believe it or not. So, or at least that's where they went in through. So, from there, the fix is in. Bond comes out of the wind, because people believed he died, and it's game time. It's them versus this madman. Now, as we get further down the line, about maybe an hour into the film or so. Now, this film is long, but it's pretty well packed with action, except for a certain point I'll get to in a second. But basically, Bond ends up going and tracking down the mastermind behind this, and I don't want to give it much away because, again, you know, now I don't want to get too much into the plot too much, but his name is Silva, and he's the big villain, and you know, it's a personal vendetta against M, and that's where this movie goes. Now I will say this: there was a lot of action. The two Bond girls that were in it were hot, but they weren't the main point. They did bring in people like Q. I mean, you saw him in the commercials. They actually assigned a new, you know, they actually got a new actor to play Q. And there was a lot of jokes because in his set of Bond movies, basically he's a rough and tumble Bond who hasn't really needed any of the big gadgets. So, you know, he hasn't had... These films were not gadget-driven. Now, I personally, one of the biggest reasons why I loved growing up watching the Bond movies was the gadgets, right? So, the fact that they kind of made fun of it a few times, I was fine with. It was slightly an homage to it almost, but they were making fun of it a little bit. I like it. You know, it basically Q gives them, we all see it in the scene in the commercial, basically Q gives him the gun with the fingerprint reader, and he gives him this little tiny radio. He's like, and I want them back. He's like, this isn't exactly Christmas. He's like, yeah, what did you expect? An exploding pen? Those things are in the past. You know, we don't do that anymore. And you know, it's good. The moment where he calls him Q in the movie was great. You know, basically, this film is, you know, we also got to see the Bond car in the film was a classic Bond car. It was the classic Bond car. You know, it was his car as opposed to being a Bond car. You know what I mean? It was like a retired Bond car that he kept. And they made the joke about the ejector seat. You know, I don't want to get too much away about the car, but it's a classic Bond car. This moment he gets into this thing and it gets shown, the classic Bond music goes on, and you're just in that moment. That was a great scene in the movie. I laughed. I loved it. And I really enjoyed it. Well, that's as far as I'm going to go into the plot. You know, I don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to give anything away after this point. You know, basically, it was good. The women in the film, again, the Bond women didn't have the, you know, in classic films, they usually have more to do with things. And there's usually some sort of, like, you know, but not in this film. In this film, it really wasn't about that. I mean, if you want to, it was basically about Bond and M and the villain Silva, and that's what this movie was about. Basically, this movie's a changing of the guard. Now, you know, I don't know if he's going to do another one of these films, so I feel like this is going to be the last in his trilogy of movies. You know, they introduced Q, they introduced somebody else, I'm not going to give it away, but I feel like that this movie was really, and you got that feeling watching this film, that this was really his last Bond film, and I believe he said it in a few interviews, that unless the next story they come up with is phenomenal, he's going to leave it with this film. And having seen the film, yeah, I think this is the best one that he's done. So why would he do it? You know what I mean? All three of his films were good. I believe, yeah, three. That sounds right. 3 of films. And yeah. Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, right? Yeah, and this one. Yeah, 3 films. And all 3 of his films were good. You know, the first one was so radically different, you had to get used to it. The second one was big and grand, but this one was the one I liked. And you know, I guess this is the anniversary. Was it the anniversary of Bond? And it's an anniversary film, but it felt good. Again, one of my favorites. The only point in which I thought this movie dragged a little bit, because again, this movie was a little long, and the only time you notice it's a little long is in the preparation for the big showdown. Now, I'm not going to tell you what the showdown is. I'm not going to tell you where the showdown is. None of that. None of the details of the big showdown am I going to get into. Except to say, although the pace of the film at this point seemingly slowed down to get to there, you know, because you were learning interesting things about the characters, it was okay. You know what I mean? It wasn't that bad, because the moment there was that short little lag and then things started picking up again, you knew it was rolling forward like a snowball down a hill. You know what I mean? So I was fine with it. And again, this movie was very high paced anyway, with the action and everything else. So the fact that it slowed down a little bit towards the middle, towards the end of the middle, towards the end, is okay with me. Yeah. Now, that being said, I would say, if I was gonna rate this as a Bond film, I would say this is a 4.5, almost a 5. I'd give it. You know what? I'm gonna say a 4.5. And the reason why I say 4.5 is because personally in Bond films, I like to see more gadgets, and I know they crack the jokes about the gadgets, but I personally like to see more gadgets, and I have a feeling in movies to come, now that we officially have a Q, we're going to get that, and they're going to be different. Alright, so, and I thought the Bond women could have had, or one of the Bond girls could have had a bigger role. You know, the Bond girls could have had it. Although they weren't the focus of the movie, so I understand that. So that's okay with me. But in reality, you know, it would have gotten a 5 had they just given him some cool gadget. For me, as a Bond film, that's why I would have gotten a 5. But 4.5 out of 5, which is a great, nearly amazing, and like I said, the best of the trilogy. You know, is saying a lot. So, you know, it's definitely worth the money. It's definitely worth seeing. I mean, I didn't see it in IMAX or anything. I hear it's out in IMAX because Sony co-produced it. But yeah, I'd spend some cash, go see it. See it at a matinee. Again, I'm not about spending money. Use a coupon if you got a coupon. But yeah, I definitely say go see this movie. I definitely recommend it. So, this is alertwolf here, telling you to click it up if you like it. Comment if you must, subscribe if you can, and I am signing out.